Hey, Beastista here, and welcome to the first week of playoffs in the VDL. I'm very excited because it's the first time I made playoffs in the VDL. However, I am playing against one of the better people in the league, the coach of the Norwegian Dermanitans. And not only is this one of the better coaches, they also have a very good team that we can see here. So their team is on the right, and my team is on the left. And looking at their team, the first thing that's very concerning is they have Tapu Lele, which is the first time this season I have to play against a psychic terrain setter that automatically sets it up. In addition to them having psychic terrain, they also have two additional psychic Pokemon, and Beheeyem and Gothita, which is very concerning for my mono poison team. In addition to that, they also get Urshifu Single Strike, which is very good at making it hard for me to protect. Other than that, there are some nice things in this matchup. So first of all, if you look at my fastest three Pokemon, they are faster than their entire team. In addition to that, Skuntape seems to have a favorable matchup against all three of their psychic Pokemon, and in addition to that, also has a favorable matchup against Urshifu because it gets fairy coverage. So that's definitely a nice plus side. With that, I definitely think it's very important for me to position Skuntank in a way to survive and take control, because otherwise I think that this will go very poorly for me. So with that, let's see the team I decided to bring. So here's the team I decided to bring. So the top two are the Pokemon that I am likely going to lead game one. It is going to be Salazzle and Weezing. So Salazzle should outspeed every Pokemon on my opponent's team and has Focus Sash. So no matter what, I should be able to get an attack off. In addition to that, I have Sludge Bomb, which is a clean 2-hit KO on Tapu Lele no matter what, even if it has a poison resist berry, which is definitely one of the big reasons why I'd like to lead it. And then I gave it Dragon Pulse specifically to deal some damage to Regirock, because Regirock is a concerning Pokemon in the late game. Next is Weezy next to it, the other Pokemon I'm planning to lead with it, which has Neutralizing Gas. So the idea with leading Weezing is to preemptively prevent Tapu Lele from getting Psychic Terrain with its ability. And so as long as Weezing is on the field, there shouldn't be any Psychic Terrain. And in addition to that, I gave it the Psychic Resist Berry in order to survive at least any sort of Psychic attack that can do. And I gave it Strange Team as its only offensive move because my opponent's team actually has 0 fairy resists on their team. And so this is perfectly coverage, as in it's always neutral. In addition to that, it should always one-shot Urshifu unless it's Focus Sash, obviously. And then I gave Will-O-Wisp specifically for Regirock. And a little bit of Tauros, and possibly a little bit on the Urshifu, but most likely would just kill Urshifu with Stream Stream. So the next two Pokemon are likely the Pokemon I would pair with those two in my Game 1 lead, which is Skuntank and Slowking. So Skuntank is definitely the most important Pokemon this week. I would be incredibly surprised if I did not bring it any match. I feel like I need to bring it every match. It is my only clean answer to Tapu Lele. It's my only clean answer to all the Psychic Pokemon. So Crunch, going to do good damage into them. Poison Jab, also better is mainly there for Tapu Lele, but it also is reasonable coverage against anything that hits neutral because they don't have many poison resists. And then Play Rough specifically for Urshifu. I gave it the Citrus Berry, so I should be able to take 3 hits from pretty much anything on their team, barring something that's very unexpected. And so hopefully Skunktank's able to kind of stay there, get some hits, and be bulky. Especially when it's paired next to something like maybe a Moongus or Weezing. So next we have Slowking, which is mainly there for general bulk, another psychic neutral Pokemon at least. And in addition to that, I gave it the Colbur Berry so that it can survive a Wicked Blow from Urshifu. I gave it Sludge Bomb because Sludge Bomb hits most of their team for at least neutral, and then Scald specifically to hit the poison resists on Regirock and Corsola. I definitely think that maybe I should be Shadow Ball instead of Scald, but I decided Scald because I think I could definitely imagine situations in which Scald could be more relevant, especially because sometimes I might need to click it and hope for a burn, because that might be the only way I could feasibly win the game. And so that's kind of what I went with those. Next we go with Amoonguss. So Amoonguss pretty standard set. I get Protect, Rage Powder, Spore, which is pretty much every week I've had it so far. And then Giga Drain is my offensive move this week. Overall, Grass is very good damage to my opponent's team. They do not have many grass resists, and in addition to that, Giga Drain can give you a little bit health, which might be able to help with some long late game situations, because they do have a couple Pokemon that are very grindy oriented. And then finally, I bring Quillfish for the first time this season. Quillfish may or may not come. We will see. It's the idea with Quillfish is mainly for Steel Roller. So Steel Roller is a way for me to get rid of Psychic Terrain after it's already up. And in addition to getting rid of Psychic Terrain after it's already up, it also is a clean one-hit KO on Tapu Lele. So it's a great way to kind of counter a Tapu Lele lead without having to bring Weezing in. In addition to that, its Intimidate can make it pretty good against Pokemon like Urshifu and Tauros as well. And so it's definitely got some, some use, but we will see. I'm not completely convinced whether or not I'm going to bring it. However, the other options didn't seem particularly great in the back either. And so I decided to go with Quillfish because I can definitely imagine a situation in which I can hard read them bringing out Tapu Lele turn 1 and me lead Quillfish, kill Tapu Lele, and get rid of the Psychic Terrain. So with that, let's go into our matches. So here we are for match 1. Looking at my opponent's team, for the most part, it's basically what I expected, except I wasn't particularly expecting Araquanid because I do have multiple water resists on the team, and they don't do a lot of damage outside of water damage. And, I probably would have expected Urshifu over it, but other than that, about 5 of the Pokemon are pretty much expected. So with that, I don't think Araquanid really changes any of my main game plans. So I think I will kind of stick with the game 1 game plan, which is Salazzle Weezing with Slowking and Skuntank in the back. And so there we go. So my opponent leads Raikou Corsola, and I lead Weezing Salazzle. I can see why they led this lead. It definitely is a good lead at, kind of making it awkward if I wanted to set up Trick Room. So here, the main question is whether or not I protect Weezing. I decided to protect Weezing and just go for a Sledge Bomb onto the Raikou. Salazzle is in an okay position, but not great. In hindsight, I think I might have protected, or not protected, I might have faked out into the Raikou instead, because I definitely completely forgot that Neutralizing Gas prevented his inner focus right here. However, I think this is a fine play. So we'll go through all Corsola into a Regirock, and the Protective and the Weezing. So we get the Sludge Bomb off into the Raikou, and it does pretty good damage, about what I was expecting. And the Extra Energy decides to actually go into the Salazzle, bringing me down to my Focus Sash. So next, I definitely feel like I want to Will-O-Wisp into the Regirock. It's a good way to kind of make it not particularly relevant for most of the game. And I'm debating whether or not I should, switch out or protect. And I decide I'm just going to attack into the Raikou. I'm fine with Salazzle going down here, and hopefully I can get some damage before it goes out. So we get some damage into the Raikou, which activates its Citrus Berry, which is actually, funnily, the set that I was expecting to see when I was practicing. The Extra Sensory goes into the Weezing, which activates its Poison Resist Berry. And we are able to get the Will-O-Wisp into the Regirock, which makes its damage output dramatically weakened for the rest of the game. And the Rock Slide double connects and kills the Salazzle. Definitely would have been convenient if Salazzle would have been able to dodge that, but, not much you can do about that. So now I'm debating between Skuntank and Slowking. And I decided to bring in Slowking because I really feel like I need to save Skuntank. And Skuntank can take a pretty good amount of damage from a Thunderbolt into like a Stomping Tantrum or something from the Regirock, which is why I think that Slowking is the correct bring here. And so I definitely considered setting up Trick Room, but I decided that's not particularly relevant. So I decided to just Pain Split into the Regirock because I'm pretty sure I survive an extra sensory based on how much it did with my berry. And I want to Sludge Bomb into the Raikou, and I'm checking to see which possible switch-ins there are. And I decide that I might as well Sludge Bomb because it's better if they happen to have some, Tapu Lele or something like that in the back. So they Thunderbolt into the Slowking spot. And I get the Pain Split off into the Regirock, which definitely is a little bit sad because if they would have targeted the Weezing with the Thunderbolt, I definitely could have been pretty great there. But didn't quite happen. And I decided to Sludge Bomb, and it ends up getting the kill on the Raikou. So here they bring out the Tapu Lele, and I decide to just go. Well, so yeah, I'm just debating on whether or not I should be protecting Weezing or not. I'm pretty sure I die from a Psychic in the Weezing spot, and so and I'm pretty sure that they know that Tapu Lele should also kill the Weezing, and so the big question is, is it worth risking Weezing for this? And I decide to go for the attack into the Tapu Lele, definitely hoping for some damage in that. And I also decided to go for the Sludge Bomb. This double up actually should kill. However, it's very unlikely that both my Pokemon survive. And they end up going for the Psyshock into the Nidoking, which ends up killing it. Psychic probably, Slowking probably survives a Psychic, but because Psyshock hits physically, it ends up killing it. And we get the Confusion, which is really lucky because of kind of them killing my Slowking there. And Weezing takes the Stomping Tantrum reasonably well. And so now it's 2v versus 3. So definitely not looking amazing for me currently. So I definitely don't think there's a good way for me to win this game if Weezing goes down here. So I feel like I need to protect and go for the Poison Jab into the Tapu Lele. So Tapu Lele ends up getting fully confused, which is very lucky for me, and it goes there. However, I found out later that it actually has no non-psychic moves, so I don't think the Confusion hit mattered too much because it actually couldn't hit my Slowking and my Weezing protected. However, we do get a good amount of damage on Tapu Lele, even though it reveals that it is the Poison Resist Berry. Stomping Tantrum goes into the Skunk Tank, and Skunk Tank takes it somewhat reasonably. So now we got, very weak Tapu Lele, and again, I don't think that without Weezing, I can win this game in the late game. So I feel like I have to go for a double protect because a Psychic into the Weezing spot seems very obvious. And I also go for the Poison Jab to try to finish off the Tapu Lele. They end up switching out Tapu Lele, which honestly probably ends up being better for me because I end up missing this double protect. And we end up getting the Poison Jab into the Cursula. And we luckily get the poison, which definitely is one of the big things that I need to do with Cursula in the late game, is I need to kind of get it into a situation where I can get some passive damage. So the Stomping Tantrum gets me below 50 and activates my Citrus Berry. And the passive poison damage on Cursula is definitely going to be useful. And the passive damage on Burn is also going to be quite useful. So here, I think I decided to just split up my damage Strange Steam onto the Registeel and the Crunch on the Cursula. The Crunch is should be a 2-hit KO on Cursula, but obviously they frequently have Strength Sap and other things to recover and make my attacks weaker. And so definitely can be possibly a 4 or 5-hit KO instead. I end up getting the crit, which is a little bit awkward because if I would have actually doubled up, the Strange Steam should have killed. However, I don't quite get there. So they end up Strange Steaming into my Skunk Tank and getting a crit, which definitely was a little bit inconvenient, but not too terrible. And then they end up Nightshading into the Skunk Tank as well. And so here, I believe that Curse is going to die to a poison. And so I think that I have to protect Skunk Tank and just hope that they target Skunk Tank. This also kind of deals with the possibility of it healing up a little bit because my Weezing's attack is not particularly high this week. I made sure to go 0 speed with negative attack nature, specifically for Corsola. So we get the Protect off into the Skunk Tank. And here we see the Strange Stream goes into the Weezing, or the Weezing from the Strange Stream into the Regirock, and Stomping Tantrum goes into the Skunk Tank, and Strength Sap goes into the Skunk Tank. So really convenient that they happen to double click into the Skunk Tank, and I'm definitely feeling pretty good about that. And the poison does in fact kill the Corsola. So now we're down to a 2 versus 2, and we're in this very strange in-game where I have Skunk Tank and they have Tapu Lele and Regirock. Tapu Lele, assuming that it has fairy coverage, could kill either my Pokemon in one hit, and Regirock will die from burn. And so here it's like, okay, should I double up into Tapu Lele and then hope that, or should I protect with Weezing and attack this with a Skunk Tank, or double protect, go for the double protect. And so I decided to just double up into the Tapu Lele spot. I found out, later on that this was actually ended up being a misplay. It's not with the information I had, but Tapu Lele actually has only Psychic coverage this week. And so if I would have protected with Weezing, or if I would have attacked into the Regirock spot with my Skunk Tank, I actually have a guaranteed win here. However, because of because I was unaware of that, it definitely was more of a 50-50 and came down to whether or not I was going to guess that the optimal thing was to protect Weezing. I'm not sure if it was optimal or not either way, because obviously, if I protect Weezing and they Moonblast into the Skunk Tank, I lose as well. So it's definitely a hard decision that I ended up making the wrong call on. As we see, I hardly missed there. They die from my Aftermath. They also would have died from burn, but it was a very close game 1, and let's see what happens in game 2. So here we are for game 2. So I'm definitely considering what my options are for my, for my possible brings. I definitely think that, obviously I need to bring Skunk Tank. I think Weezing did perform quite well, and so I want to bring Weezing. And so the question is do I want to do something like Quillfish or Amoonguss? And I don't really feel like Quillfish seems particularly great because it doesn't look like they're going to lead Tapu Lele. And Quillfish is a little bit awkward if they don't lead it. And so I decided to kind of go with the same. I could definitely see an argument that maybe I could, bring Amoonguss instead of one of these 3. However, Slowking does look good, and so does, so does Skunk Tank, or so does, so does Salazzle. And so I decided to just go with the same 4 and see what happens. So let's get into the match. So here we are. They lead Raikou and Corsola, and I lead Salazzle and Weezing. So the exact same lead as game 1. And so here I kind of remembered the fact that last game I could have faked out into the Raikou spot. So I decided to fake out Strange Team into the Raikou spot. Kind of, making sure it can't do any damage, and they end up protecting my their Raikou. So definitely a little bit awkward. My game, if I would have done that game 1, I feel like it would have been a lot better position, and then game 2, if I feel like I did the other play, I might be, or if I did a slightly different play, it might have been better. But they end up safeguarding with the Corsola, which makes sense. It's a good way to kind of deal with my Spore from Amoonguss and the Will-O-Wisp that we had from the previous game. So here I'm deciding between a couple of things, but the main question is whether or not I think they're going to Psychic, which spot do I think they're going to Extrasensory to? And I predict that they're going to do into the Weezing spot, so I switch out the Weezing and attack into the Raikou. So Weezing comes out and to the Skunk Tank. And the Sludge Bomb goes into the Raikou. And Raikou ends up actually Extrasensory into the Salazzle spot, which is definitely a little bit sad. If I would have switched up the order, it would have been a little bit better. But it happens, and they end up doubling up and killing the Slazzle. So now I'm down a Pokemon, and the only play I can really think about is bringing back into the Weezing. The main reason behind this is Slowking doesn't do great into the Corsola, and I don't really want them to get up to Psychic Terrain. And so I decided to just crunch into the Corsola spot, and I also decide to just go for a Strange Steam. And the main question is whether or not I should go into the Corsola or into the Raikou, and I decided to go into the Raikou. So the extrasensory into the Weezing, activating my berry. It does, reasonable damage, but not too bad. We end up crunching into the Corsola, and it does very good damage. It's a clean 2-hit KO. However, we do in fact get a crit again. It's definitely a little bit quite lucky. Strange Stream gets a Raikou below 50%, and it activates its berry. And so here, they end up missing a Will-O-Wisp, which is a very huge. This makes it pretty much guaranteed that I can kill Corsola if they just try to do that again. And because I don't want my Skunktank to get Will-O-Wisp, I feel I need to go for the double up with the Strange Stream and Crunch. This is one of the big reasons that the crit was very relevant so far, because if I didn't get the crit, this double up likely doesn't KO. There's a chance, but it's definitely very unlikely. So they end up Calm Minding Raikou. And that, definitely very concerning, but we are able to crunch, and the Strange Steam is able to connect and kill the Corsola here. And so now we don't have to deal with my Skunktank's attack getting lowered. And so now we got the Raikou and the Araquanid, and so basically Raikou's going to do a lot of damage to the Weezing, and so I'm going to Poison Jab, but I believe that Raikou does not kill Weezing based on the previous damage calculation. And so the main question is do I Will-O-Wisp into the Araquanid or Pain Split into the Araquanid? So Pain Splitting, if I do get hit by an extrasensory, is going to heal me up to about 50%, maybe a little more. However, Will-O-Wisp is a great way to make Araquanid take passive damage and make its offense very weak. I decided to go for the Pain Split as a way to get Weezing a little bit more longevity. And I end up just barely surviving the extrasensory. My damage calculation might have been a little bit greedy, but it ended up working out in the end. And we end up getting the Pain Split off and getting up to a little bit above 50%, and Araquanid goes for a stockpile. So at this point, I definitely think that Araquanid is likely not going to be a damage threat too much, but it's mainly going to be their main late game decision. And so here, I decided to just go for the Poison Jab there, and the main question is do I want to switch out or go for the Protect? Because if they extrasensory into the Weezing, I definitely think that it's going to kill, and I do not want to lose Weezing if I don't have to. And so here, I decided to just go for the Protect. I think it's the safe option. So they end up protecting with the Raikou, and as I go for the Protect with the Weezing. It makes sense. They kind of were playing around me protecting, and ends up kind of undoing my turn. However, they do get a Liquidation off, which does do pretty good damage. Honestly, better damage than I was expecting, with Araquanid being leftovers. So normally it has the ability Water Bubble, which increases water coverage, but because my Weezing has neutralizing gas, it actually doesn't have that attack boost. And so I was definitely surprised because Araquanid's base attack is quite low. So anyways, here I'm pretty sure an extrasensory kills Weezing. I just protected, and so the main question is do I go for the double protect or do I switch out into the Slowking and take and hit? I end up going for the double protect because I don't really think I can win if Slowking gets that big of a hit. I miss the double protect, and the extrasensory ends up killing the Weezing. Definitely sad. I definitely think I would be in pretty good shape if that ended up, taking that. However, I end up missing that, and I just barely missed the KO, but I luckily get the poison, and it ends up getting the kill. I'm not positive if it was a high roll or a low roll, and so maybe I would have killed if I got a little bit better of a roll. But the poison definitely helps guarantee the KO, which is a really big deal. And we get the Raikou dies. And now it's a 2 versus 2. However, they have a Araquanid that is set up sufficiently with, you know, some Aqua Rings and some stockpiles. And they have Tapu Lele with Psychic Terrain. And so here I decide that I need to kill Tapu Lele, and hopefully I can 2v1 the Araquanid. This double up should kill Tapu Lele even though it has the berry. And the Araquanid is hopefully not going to do too much damage to either of my Pokemon, even though it's probably going to do reasonable damage because it did quite a bit of damage even without the water bubble. So they end up protecting the Tapu Lele, which is really bad for me because I doubled up that spot. However, this was more of a Hail Mary than anything else because I'm pretty sure that I needed to kill Tapu Lele this exact turn or I was going to lose. And so I didn't really expect this to work, but I was kind of really hoping it was going to work. And so here we just decide to kind of do the same thing, which is double up onto the Tapu Lele, hope that kills. So they end up Psyshocking into the Nidoking spot, which does quite a bit of damage. One of the big reasons why I wanted Psychic Terrain gone. We end up hitting the Tapu Lele and getting it pretty low. And the Slowking takes a liquidation. You know, as we can see, like I definitely had a chance to get back in this game if I would have protected the Slowking. However, with that, I think the game is very close to pretty much being guaranteed wrapped. You know, definitely not a damage calc I was expecting, the double up of Psyshock and liquidation from the two, and so maybe I could have EV'd to train that, but who knows. So here I decide to just go for the protect, baiting a protect from the Tapu Lele, because I want to be able to kill it. However, I don't think there's a real way I can win this. Like maybe if I'm able to kill Tapu Lele, then poison Araquanid. And no, I can't even think of a way to win this, actually, because even if I poison Araquanid, because it has leftovers, it actually doesn't even do anything. So yeah, we're definitely in a situation where I don't think there's a way to win the game, but I decided to just go for the kill onto the Tapu Lele because then it'll make me feel a little better about myself. And so Tapu Lele taunts, which prevents me from protecting, which don't think that really does anything, but it definitely, you know, removes all possibilities that I could have had. Obviously, I think it's optimal for them to do that, especially knowing that the fact that now that they revealed their entire moveset, that they do not have any moves to hit my Skunk Tank with, and their liquidation ends up killing the Skunk Tank and getting me. So definitely a really close match. Game one ended up, you know, if I would have changed one of my decisions, I would have won that game. Game two, I definitely think that I was pretty close there. I feel like if maybe I was able to, if I was able to burn the Araquanid some way, I think I could have gotten out of there, but it's definitely not obvious how I would have been able to do that. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with my prep and how that game went. I don't think I really made any mistakes like I feel like I've done previously. In many previous games, I feel like most of mine were decisions with the information I had, and I ended up either getting read by my opponent or I made a incorrect decision, or like I made the wrong 50-50 guess. And overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Sadly, that's the end of Season 5 for me. However, my opponent played great, and maybe they get their second championship. Thanks for watching.